Hey, welcome back to the Lick of the Week videos. This is going to be the first video in a new series I'm going to call Revisiting Classic Tunes. In response to some replies I had in the Lick of the Week ideas thread on the Plain Forum, I decided to pick this topic. This seemed to be one that came up a few times, and I actually received some emails asking for me to do a Lick of the Week series on these old tunes. And what we'll do in this series is just pick a few standard tunes, and if you have any input, please post them to this thread or to the Lick of the Week idea thread, and we'll see if we can get to those at some point. I just want to take a handful of these standard tunes and just look at different ways to play the melody, play around with placing the melody in different places, filling in around the melody differently, substituting licks for melody, improvising over the chord changes, just whatever we can think of to enhance standard versions of the tune. I picked Gold Rush, which is a really standard old hard driving fiddle tune that a lot of banjo players know, and we usually play this in A, so I'm already capoed at A, and if my zoom cooperates we'll get as close to the fingerboard as we can get. And what we're going to do is look at the standard version and then break it down by phrase and see if we can elaborate on it and try different things, and hopefully this will get you out of a rut with your version of the song, give you new ideas, and use my ideas. Some of these ideas will be mine, some of them will be ideas I've heard from other players that I like, from some of the real famous godfather figure banjo players that we all know and copy. And you can take those ideas and use them, as Bailey used to say, use it as a springboard for your own ideas. So take these ideas, run with them, and see what you can do. And if you've not ever learned some of these standard tunes, if you're watching this video and you've never learned Gold Rush, this might spark your interest in learning some of these songs. So I'm going to start with standard version, which is just pinching the second, first, and fifth string together and doing this walk up. That is what I consider a generic version of the song. It has some good stuff, and it has at its core the melody. So if we remove some of the rolls, licks, and things, what is it that we're doing on the fingerboard that sounds like Gold Rush? Well, other than the walk up, here's the melody line of the song as we're playing it in this version. Now, if you notice that compared to what we played is pretty similar. So we're trying to be Scruggsy, roll, keep the drive going, but at the same time we want to make sure that we're expressing as much melody as we can. So we need to keep this intact. We need to find this note. We need to keep these notes intact. This note intact. This note intact. This note intact. And then the ending phrase, something that sounds similar to that. Now this is one way that you can, I don't want to say improve your version of the song, but get away from a standard model. And that is to find different or alternative places to express melody. So if we know this is melody, what I'll do is start looking at where I'm fretting notes, and I'll say, where is an alternate place to find that note, or a different way to express this note, which is the first string at 4, which is an F sharp note. Not that you need to know the name of that note, but just that note in general. Where's another note that sounds exactly like that note? The second string at 7 is also an F sharp note. So how can I incorporate that into my roll patterns? Because I know this is embedded in the roll. So we're dropping that note in for a couple of beats and then taking it away. Couldn't we do that here? Let's try it. All I'm doing is playing a 2-1-5 roll, but the first note is a slide, and then I I return back to this home position, if you want to call it that. So it allows me to express melody but get a different sound. And I also get a different tone because I'm higher up the neck and I'm playing the second string, which is a larger diameter string. So going to a thicker string gives you a slightly thicker tone, and being farther up the neck gives you a little thicker sound. So there's another advantage of doing that. So I could do that in my standard model and get a variation. Now, what's another way that I can enhance this version? Well, what about the kickoff? What's something else we could do? Well, here's a common theme for an introduction to a tune. Again, this doesn't have anything to do with Gold Rush per se, but it's just a nice, interesting change of pace for coming into the tune. And it's pretty simple. What I'm doing is just walking across the 4th, 2nd fret, 3rd, 2nd fret. So it's open, fretted on these two strings. And then pinching 1 and 2 open. So I could come into the A part, which is repeated twice, 2 A parts for Gold Rush, like a lot of fiddle tunes. So I could come into the song this way, and then play it the standard model way, melody-wise. On the repeat of the A part, use a different introduction, and then go into our variation of the melody. Now, that's one way to enhance it, but we can still go further with this. We could say, okay, I've enhanced the melody here, but what about that section? Which is basically just a push off or a pull off, whichever one you prefer, on the 3rd string from 5 to 4 to open, then to the open 4th. Well, what could we do with that? Instead of a push off, one thing that comes to mind is to do single string, because the idea behind the push off pull off is to play 3 notes in a row anyway. So by doing a single string version, we get a slightly different feel and sound, and it's still melody. So now you have 2 distinct versions of the song. You have the standard model with a standard introduction. Standard fill-in licks. Then you have we call it an updated version maybe, or a little more modern version that has some single string and moving the melody to a different string and a different introduction. Okay, let's take it even further. What are some other places in the song, phrase-wise, that we can manipulate and change around? Well, what about that big filler section? You notice after the melody, 1 and a 2 and a 3. There's about a 3-beat hole, I like to say, in the melody. There's no melody for 3 beats. Most players would roll and put filler licks. So we can insert any kind of filler lick we want after we've played the melody. That time through the A part, I did a circular Scruggs fill-in lick, and then another filler lick with another tag lick. Okay, now this is an important thing to consider. How does all that flow over the chord changes? In other words, what chords are being played behind this? Because this is a key thing to remember in songs like Gold Rush. Most of these fiddle songs have what I call turnaround sections, which means by turnaround, that's referring to the last couple of chords in the song. You notice the song goes A for a couple of measures, another measure, and then the D is only 2 beats long, and then back to A for a couple of beats. So that turnaround section is 2 A's and 2 E's. And we usually play that E as a D position here. So most standard models of this song, standard versions, would have you just throw in A licks over that quick E chord, because the E chord is only 2 beats long, and I guess they figure, well, the rest of the band will be playing, if you're in a jam session, the guitar player and the man playing the bass and whoever is playing rhythm behind you, they will play the E chord for the 2 beats while you riff over it. So you can cheat a little bit, if you want to call it that, and string together A lick and never even play the E chord itself. Now this is another variation on that. Instead of just blowing across that quick turnaround and just saying, I'm not even going to play anything with the E because the other instruments will be covering the chords for me, I'm just going to play A riffs over it. Why not state something over the E so you'll have a dedicated E lick? Let's try that. There was a dedicated E lick, and then it resolved back to the A, and that lick lasted 2 beats, 1 and 2 and then you're back to A for 1 and 2 and. So it allows you to play a little more of the actual melody of the song, not just play riffs over the E chord and forget that there's an E chord there, letting the other instruments play it. So let me play 2 versions here. I'm going to play the standard model and then into our new improvised model. That was 1 time through, and we know we have to play 2 A's to play the first section of Gold Rush. So here's our second A part, the repeat of the A with our improvised ideas. Now we can continue with this trend of substituting things like, you know, there's more licks we could play in the 2 beats of the E. You could go, you could do a Scruggs standard lick out of that position, like the John Hardy idea, just shortened to be 2 beats long. John Hardy Scruggs style, you'll know what Earl's doing out of that D formation. Again, you know, John Hardy's not playing this key, but it's the same lick based on the same chord shape. It's a D position lick. But the idea here is to use these ideas that I'm showing you, some of these licks and the way I'm carving out melody maybe and putting in a lick, or in this case I'm trying to keep as much of the melody intact as I can, but find interesting ways to play that melody in different places and filler licks. Now another thing we could do is throw in a melodic lick. Where's a good place for that? Well, I'm just going to pick a spot. go. Well, look at how I played melody. That was our previously improvised version of the melody, right? Still had melody, but we improvised with where we placed the notes and how we played them. What if we took away this in favor of a melodic lick that has all the same notes but surrounded by scale notes? So we still have this note and we still have this, but instead of going, we're going to play it melodically. So we still have, you know, just about all the notes intact. How am I playing that? I'm playing the first string open, second string at 7, first string at 5, second string at 7, open first, open second, open third, I'll see. 5th fret of 3rd, open second, then open 3rd, 4th. So, and I'm trying to think and play at the same time, which is hard to do. There we go. Open first, second, first, second, first, third, second, open third. Which seems like a convoluted thing to do, but it has a totally different sound. It's melodic, so the notes bleed over. But we have the melody note intact. Third string is a melody note, and that's a melody note. So that will give us an alternate version. Right here. And I'm trying to watch the camera with my fingers too. It's not working too well. I hope I'm keeping a good camera shot. But now slow that down. You can hear the durations of the notes. These are all pretty standard. Be like 16 notes, and then that would be an 8th note. Now we can mix that together and we get a lot of different cool ways. You can make endless variations on this A part by substituting this lick for the lick. So you could sit around at home today and come up with probably a couple dozen variations on the song. And again, try to use all this to spur your own creativity. You don't even have to play anything I play on here verbatim. If you like that, you can, but you can use some of this, chop off notes that you like, make up your own versions. So that'll wrap up this video. The next video we'll look at ways to improvise with and around the B part. Appreciate it. See you next time.